I've said it before, and I'll probably say it again at least half a dozen more times over the next few months, but I think the best thing that can happen to an intelligent and honest legacy media personality is for them to get fired. You look at people like Tucker Carlson, John Solomon, Megyn Kelly, Glenn Beck, and Catherine Herridge, who was fired back in February from CBS News. Now, as we are retelling some of the stories from 2024, stories that didn't get nearly enough attention, I think that her firing, not so much that she got fired, because she was fired with a whole bunch of other people, but the way that she got fired and the fact that CBS stole all of her stuff, including confidential source information. That's something that's a big time no-no. They got sued. They got hit up by left and right. Journalists, journalistic organizations were saying, "What are you doing, CBS?" And of course, the reason for all this was because she was onto things. She was onto things that weren't very helpful for the Biden regime at the time, especially in an election year. I look back to a story. This is from February 22nd, 2024, over at redstate.com by Nick Arama. Catherine Herridge posts important update on CBS's seizure of her files. As reported, Catherine Herridge was fired from CBS during a bloodbath of them cutting hundreds of employees. Her firing got the most attention because of her excellence in reporting and the suggestion that it was more than just a layoff when it came to her being let go, and I 100% agree with that. I believe that she might have even been the overall target. It's like, we got to get rid of Catherine Herridge. We don't want to just fire her, so let's fire a bunch of people, and she'll be one of them. Okay, she was one of the most successful journalists they had, so firing her didn't make any sense unless she was the target, unless she was about to share some inconvenient truths, as she's currently doing now, being on her own. It was more than just layoffs when it came to her being let go. Just after she'd been reporting on the Her report, for those who don't recall, the Her report was the report, the investigation into Joe Biden, and of course Robert Hur was the gentleman who basically said, "Yeah, he's kind of lying a lot, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He's sort of like a dementia-ridden grandpa, but." I guess we probably shouldn't charge him. It was sort of all sorts of weird. That suspicion grew louder when it was learned that CBS had also seized Herridge's files, computers, and records, which included her privileged sources. According to George Washington law professor Jonathan Turley, the timing of Herridge's termination immediately raised suspicions in Washington. She was pursuing stories that were unwelcomed by the Biden White House and many Democrat powerhouses, including the Her report on Joe Biden's diminished mental capacity, the Biden corruption scandal, and the Hunter Biden laptop. She continues to pursue these stories despite reports of pushback from CBS executives, including CBS News President Ingrid Ciprian-Matthews. And now back to the article itself. This concerned many that this could chill reporting and sources providing information to reporters, and that was the intention. That was the absolute intention. I am 99% certain that, again, she was targeted, and I'm 99% certain that this was not just for her, not just to stop her from doing her reporting, but to also dissuade others who might think that they're protected by their journalists. If a journalist can lose the protections that they offer just by being fired by a CBS News or a Fox News or a CNN or a New York Times or whoever, if these anonymous sources, privileged sources, can get exposed just by firing that journalist, you're going to have fewer people who are willing to talk to journalists. And that's a challenge. That is suppression of freedom of press. That is suppression of our First Amendment. And it got ignored. I mean, this was a huge story that, because of the timing, this is around the time, early days of the primaries. People were talking about Trump. People were talking about Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and whatever, Chris Christie. I guess nobody was really talking about Chris Christie, but you get the idea. This was a time when they had the cover. They didn't have to draw scrutiny. But thankfully, there were some who still continued to scrutinize it, such as Jonathan Turley. And we need to highlight it and remember what they did. And we also should support Catherine Herridge. She's putting out some amazing stuff right now. Her reporting is far better today than it was when she was constrained by CBS News. And I would argue to anybody else currently in legacy media, if you have the talent, if you've got the intellect and the honesty intact, maybe you too should go independent.